right. Hopefully I did a better job setting up my new cell phone tripod camera this time, and you don't have to stare at my chest or something. Okay, anyways, so yeah, sorry I got cut off. I want to talk more about self-love versus self-hate and addiction to pain specifically, and the difference between self-responsibility and self-blame. Okay, so so I'm not going to go into the whole story again. I talked about this situation in my Coffee with Christie addiction video, and then again in the video yesterday, the first one on my journey with self-love. And so there I found, I'll just pick it up here at the AA meeting. And, you know, my friend was prepping me for, you know, hey, you don't have to go, but if you want to go, I'd love for you to meet my friends, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking about it. And I know most people would be like, well, I'm not an addict. And we're all addicted to something, you know, so that's how I'm looking at it. Okay, so yeah, I'm not addicted to what they're addicted to. But I really wanted to make that moment worth it. And many of you know I've been on my soul journey and this inward introspective journey of self-healing and my personal walk. And yeah, so I thought really deep and long and hard about that. I didn't just show up and be like, hi, I'm addicted to pain, you know. But anyways, so that's what I ended up sharing with the group. Hi, my name is Christy. You know, I'm an addict. I'm addicted to pain. And here's why. You know, like, I mean, I went through the whole thing, and because I had already seen how my actions were 100% proof that I chose pain / fear over love. And that's not to say that just, you know, you choose love and magically everything is perfect and soft and rainbowy and easy. It's not. Sometimes choosing love is the hardest thing to do. And that's when you get into self-love and getting away from these addictions to pain. I shared with you the story about, I didn't even finish, about my restaurant. And, you know, I opened when I was 23, whatever, and my friend, my longtime friend, you know, he's on drugs and all passed out and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why do you always do things to make yourself not feel good? And after, you know, a really long minute thinking about it and looking at me, he's like, that's you. You always do things to make yourself not feel good. I quit my restaurant, like, almost immediately. I think it was that very day. I put a sign on the door, and I'm like, you're right. It's not serving me anymore. So I could have taken the combative denial approach like most people do when people are on Facebook asking for help and I try to share my journey and then they want to beat me up over it. Or like fight me that what I'm saying is not true, rather than work on the self-love part. But here's the deeper issue. You know, people will be like, oh, well, people are addicted to drugs. That's a symptom, not the problem. Absolutely true. It is a symptom. But a symptom of what? We need to get real with ourselves and look at the deeper issues. Okay? Because of the trauma that we all were born into, right? Being separated from your mom in a hospital birth setting and, you know, I mean, all the circumcised, you know, all these things we don't think about that actually leave long-lasting trauma. And I'm going to recommend a book that really, really, really helped me and is awesome. It's called Waking the Tiger, Healing Trauma. Here it is, yeah. Waking the Tiger, Healing Trauma. Peter Levine and Anne Frederick. And this book talks about, you know, not just fight or flight, but What we don't, the response we don't hear about or talk about or study, fight, flight, freeze. And I mean, I might as well just show the story now because it's impossible for people to go back and listen to 2,000 videos and shows. But my story with this book, so many of you know, I'm a holistic health coach and I healed myself from cancer and lupus and all this stuff. And I'm so great and I can, so now I'm out helping other people, right? But I didn't know I had trauma. I bought this book thinking that it's going to help me help people, other people, those other poor people suffering trauma, not me, right? Yep, that's what I thought. I read the book. I don't even know how far I got into it. Oh, maybe there, because that's a big, but that just threw me into a major dark night of the soul. I realized, holy shit, I have daddy issues. Holy shit. All these things nobody ever told me about, like, okay, fight, flight, freeze. If you've had surgery, all right, and even surgery you agree with, never mind all the traumatic medical experiment, things like that going on, but your cells don't know that. They just know that they're on drugs and there's like all this invasive shit going on, poking and prodding, and they're like, oh! Well, your body holds on to that trauma. So whether you feel traumatized by it or not. Anyways, so whatever, I'll stop blabbing about this book right now. Get it. If you are serious about trying to see what's holding you back and on your self-healing journey. But, damn, where did I go when I told you about that? Or where was I going when I told you about that book? Huh, can't remember. All right, well, oh yeah, the addiction to pain. So, oftentimes, at least the first major part of it, when we are addicted to pain due to trauma or whatever, we don't know we're addicted to pain, right? We're totally in denial. So that's why we freak out when people suggest self-love. What do you mean? I love myself. I just bought myself a new coat. Or, all of these false reward systems that are in place in this society, right? But this addiction to pain is so deep. I mean, you have to figure out what it is for you on your own, but this is how it manifests. Toxic relationships, jobs you hate, environments you hate, horrible things, which all of these things are meant for our growth, right? So this is where we choose, and this is where the difference between self-blame and self-responsibility comes in. Don't waste time blaming yourself, or if somebody is trying to help you, don't assume that they're blaming you if they didn't actually say, hi, dumbass, this is what you did wrong. Like, if they're like, well, maybe self-love could prevent that, or, something like that. Don't just slip into denial mode and attack. Like, if you really, 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 really do want to heal, and you have to want it. And if you're not doing the work, you don't want it. So, or you don't want it bad enough. Because when you want it bad enough, it takes precedence over everything else. Everything else. Again, case in point, I chose to stay homeless and heal myself rather than get into another abusive, toxic situation, no matter how beautiful the dingling carrot looked. That's what we have to do to prove we truly love ourselves. That means you don't settle for anything, okay? And I know the trauma, the addiction to pain, the addiction to fear, it keeps us in this prison. But look, so, okay, I don't know if you've seen the movie Divergent, but one thing I really remember is the girl in there, and she's going through all these trials and, tribulations and stuff, and she's like, this isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real. And then I remember a movie, The Labyrinth, and, things like that. And really it's not, and especially if you believe the shit you preach, and, if you're listening to my channel, you're probably into metaphysics and things beyond the five senses, and, hardcore, raw authenticity, real healing, right? So real healing is not pretty. And the, mamby-pamby spiritual fluff and duff guru do everybody a disservice. Because they'll tell you, oh, dark night of the soul, and it's ugly. But then if somebody's going through it, they're like, oh, that's fucked up, you're mentally ill. Banish her, or, whatever, right? It's like, ah! But again, all of those things, and even those horrible relationships you're afraid to get out of, are there to make you stronger. So, do we want to hold on to our addictions, or do we want to pack our baggage? Unpack our bags, right? So when you get over your addiction to pain, all other unhealthy addictions go away. And I see people, like really good, well-meaning, decent people, but they're so addicted to their pain and their fair prison and their abusive situations that they think it's totally normal to abuse the others that are there for them or trying to help them or whatever, instead of look at it as inspiration, realizing that they also can do the same. So don't shoot the messenger. And I'm sure, really, if you're not on that path, everything I'm saying is just nagging and harping and blah, blah, blah. Would you please shut up? Okay, I get it. But if you're not here for real healing, why are you here? So, yeah, the addiction to pain. How do we heal that? Well, do you ever dream of a world outside that, what's it called, Truman Show? Outside that little bubble? Or what's Logan's Run? Do you ever think of a world outside that bubble, outside our fear prison of our minds? Look, every single thing you fear, whether it's homelessness or leaving a relationship or leaving a job or standing up to sexual harassment, abuse, whatever it is, somebody else has already done it. Yeah, you're going to be shamed. Yeah, you're going to be slandered. More people support psychopaths than honest authenticity. Fact. And it's okay, but again, it's part of the path. Are you a warrior? Or are you going to cave and be like, help me, help me, help me? Yeah, we all need a little help, right? But in the end, you have only you to survive on. Let me tell you something about help. This needs to be its own video, but I'll just say this. People who are trying to hurt you also try to lure you under the guise of help, right? And that's something I really had to learn firsthand, just because people use words to, nice words that make you feel all nice and, oh, they care about me and they have my best interest, is not always necessarily the case. And I'm just going to have to make that its own video. But when you're tired of being sick and tired, right? I know it's a cliche, but as I mentioned yesterday, people want to argue, well, we self-medicate because, we don't want to be in pain. Well, bullshit, because you wake up every day with a hangover and you can't get to work on time, or you do it painfully, and then you show up to work and you abuse people like me. Or other people, right? Yeah, true story. And I've had to stand up to a little bit of that. So, and that's where the self-love thing comes in. If you don't love yourself, you can't love others. And people who abuse themselves, it's easy for them to abuse others, right? So on your self-love journey, guess what? You're not going to like this part, but you have to protect yourselves from people who do not love themselves. Why? Because they are going to, in their delusion of love and caring for you, they are going to try to force on you what isn't working for them. And because they're miserable, they expect you, oh, can't have it all, right? Well, you got to give up something, or you got to settle somewhere, or, you know, no, those are people that do not love themselves. Put a bubble, because you can fly higher than those prisons, okay? And just because people, you know, it doesn't mean they're all out to get you, or, you know, they're abusing you or this and that. They just don't know when everybody's on their path. And again, part of self-love is loving people by allowing them to be exactly who they are and where they are without the need to change them. When you're caught in the addiction to pain and fear programming, you're trying to change other people, right? You're the ones on the internet going around correcting everybody else, telling them they're doing everything wrong. Yeah. Giving other people bad advice to stay in horribly abusive situations because you could get something out of it, or whatever excuses people make. I mean, so it's not that they're intentionally trying to harm you, but if you're on a true path of self-love, it takes a bit of isolation, because there's not a lot of people that really are on that path. And when they are, you'll recognize them, because they're not going out of their way to bother other people. They're just moving forward with themselves. They're not competing with anyone else. Their competition is with themselves. Okay, what did I discover that I'd like to do better? And am I doing it? And that gets back to the self-love. I think it was shortly before I got cut off in yesterday's video. If you truly don't like something about yourself that you can fix,